Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do the mid-year book Freakout tag because it is the beginning of July, so we have officially left the first half of the year behind us, and even though I'm a bit late to the game because a lot of people have already done this tag, I still feel like I wanted to finish June before I do it, so I hope you're still interested in this. And yeah, let me just tell you maybe a couple of things about my reading so far. So I'm currently on my Goodreads page and it says that I have so far read 41 books, which is pretty good. I usually set my reading goal to 52 books in a year, but I aim for around 70-80 books. So having read 41 already is awesome. And I've also read 1,464 pages so far, according to Goodreads. So that would count my audiobooks as well. And the shortest book I've read so far is The Lives of Saints, and my longest book is Middlemarch. The most popular book I've read this year is The Midnight Library, and the least popular book was the book about Japanese myth that is only available in German, so that's not a surprise that it isn't very popular on Goodreads. My average rating is a 4-star, and the highest rated book that I've read this year is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Okay, so let's get into the questions. The first question is best book you've read so far this year, and that would be Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I think I have already read 8 5-star reads this year, which is a lot, but I think Know My Name was definitely objectively the best one of those. Then the second question is the best sequel. I have to mention 3. The first one was Hollowpox, the third book in the Morrigan Crow series. So this is a middle grade, very magical and fun. Then we have Rule of Wolves, the second book of the Nikolai duology by Leigh Bardugo, which is just a duology written for me. I'm such a Zoya fangirl, so this series is everything to me. And lastly, The Archive of the Forgotten by A.J. Haig, which is the sequel to The Library of the Unwritten. That one was also so good. I had such a good time with it. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. And at the top of my head, I do know... I always forget the titles. There is this book with the Woodsman, I think by Ava Reed, The Wolf and the Woodsman, something like that. I actually don't know. But that one looks fantastic, and I think it is pitched as for fans of The Bear and the Nightingale, which I loved. So I think that is one book that I will definitely read later in the year when it gets a little bit more autumnal. Another one that I've been eyeing is For the Wolf. It has a very similar theme, and I'm also keeping that one for later in the year, I think. But yeah, I've been really good with reading the new releases that I really want to read, so I'm very happy about that this year. And then I actually own 2 books that I still haven't read, even though they were new releases. One is How Beautiful We Were, which I hope I will read this month. And the other one is Wild Women and the Blues, which I will definitely read this month. So these are also new releases that I really have to get to. Number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I usually don't look too far into the future with new releases, but I'm pretty sure that the third book in the Library of the Unwritten trilogy will come out. That will be the final book, which will be so sad, but yeah, I'm very excited about that one. Oh yeah, the third book in the Carry On series is also coming out. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that one, but I might read it eventually. Then a book that I'm very intrigued by is Small Favors by Aaron A. Gregg. I have read the first book by Aaron A. Gregg and really liked it. It was The House of Salt and Sorrows. So I hope that this one will be a similar kind of very atmospheric fairy tale retelling. Then there is Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which also looks very interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of Mexican Gothic, but I would definitely give this author another try. Then there is the new T.J. Klune book, Under the Whispering Door. I have heard that is very different from The House in the Cerulean Sea, but it still sounds very intriguing. It deals with death, which is something that I really like in books, especially when death is a certain character, or, you know, there is this kind of like ferryman character, something like that. So I'm intrigued by that one. Ooh, then there's usually a new Monstrous volume. So volume 6 is supposed to be out in September, which I'm really excited about. I love Monstrous. It's my favorite like graphic novel comic series. Then in November, there's supposed to be Our Violent Ends, which is the finale to Our Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I also think I will get that one. I did like the first book, so these would be some examples for books that I'm looking forward to. Then we have number 5, Biggest Disappointment. And let me think about that for a second. I think one of my biggest disappointments was Imagine Me by Tara Mafi. This is the 6th book in the Shadow Me series and the kind of second finale that we got. And it just wasn't worth it. I just much preferred the ending of the first trilogy. I don't think that everything that kind of went on top was really worth it to continue on with the series. So that was definitely a disappointment, even though I gave it 3 stars. But yeah, no. Yeah, I think that's my answer for biggest disappointment. All the other books that I thought were worse, I expected to be bad. So yeah, don't ask me why I read books that I think will be bad. They're usually for like book clubs or gifts, but yeah, no. Imagine Me was the only one that really disappointed me. Then we have biggest surprise. I think one thing that actually surprised me was Monsters Volume 5. I was actually surprised how much I cared, which sounds wrong, but it is a series that is just very overwhelming. It has a ton of characters and a lot of story and plot. So when I reread the 4th one and then read the 5th volume at the beginning of the year, I was actually surprised how much I really cared about all of these characters, because since I, read them as they come out, it just feels like you only ever have this small amount of time with them. But I really, really do care about these characters and the world. And yeah, I just love it. So even though I knew I would enjoy it, I was surprised how much I've grown to love this series now. Then we have number 7, favorite new author. And I think for me that would be, trying to say the name right again, Farida Abike Imide. It's a name. It's a long name. I always have a hard time remembering very long names. But yeah, she wrote Ace of Spades and I loved it. I think Ace of Spades is what I want every YA kind of thriller to be like high stakes, amazing atmosphere, clever characters that work together, and you just really want them to be fine and you really fear for them because what's happening is actually thrilling and dangerous and high stakes. So yeah, I will definitely read her next book and probably all of her next books. So that would be my answer for that. Newest fictional crush, I think would be, what's her name? It's Fatian from A Curse of Roses. She is the female love interest of the main character, and Fatian is an enchanted Mora, so she's already like centuries old, and she has been forced by magic to kind of live in this stone, and she couldn't really get out of there. But she's just amazing. I loved her so much. I think she is an amazing love interest, but also an amazing character on her own right. I loved her, and like after her first couple of sentences, I was like, oh my god, like she is my like top crush of the year so far. Then we have number 9, newest favorite character. And I think that one is a little bit more difficult. A lot of the books that I've read and loved were sequels, so I think one of my new favorite characters is definitely Chiamaka from Ace of Spades. She was amazing. She's this like really determined kind of character. She is ambitious. She knows what she wants and how to get it. She's working hard. She's, you know, putting in all of her best to achieve her goals. So yeah, Chiamaka was definitely great. And then also right now I'm listening to A Chorus Rises, which is also a sequel. But in the first book, this character was kind of the mean girl, and now we get a book from her perspective, and that is Naima. And I must say that I really, really enjoy being in her head. So I consider it a new favorite character because I didn't really have an opinion on her in the first book, but now reading this book, focusing on her story, I really love her. And Naima as well is just a character that is very ambitious, very unapologetic, and she just knows what she wants, and she also knows what she doesn't want, and she's not afraid to tell you that. And that's just the kind of like female characters that I really like reading about, because I think especially in YA, it is so important for young girls to see that representation, to see these ambitious young women who are not afraid to, you know, get down and dirty and do the work to achieve their goals. So that's kind of what I enjoy seeing. Also, of course, Jordan from The Chosen and the Beautiful, but it's also not really a new Farrah character because I mainly love her because I've always loved her in the Gatsby franchise, movie, book, whatever. So yeah. Number 10, a book that made you cry. That would definitely be Know My Name by Chanel Miller again. That definitely was such a hard read. There were times when I was like angry crying. There were times when I was sad crying. And yeah, it was just so impactful. It just held all my emotions. And yeah, it was a fantastic book. And then also The House in the Cerulean Sea. This actually made me happy cry, which is also nice. So yeah, I think this also fits in with the next question, which is a book that made you happy. And that would definitely be The House in the Cerulean Sea. I know that this is like a very common answer for this question, but it just did, you know? I don't know what else to say about it. It made me happy. Another book that I thought would fit that category, but then it was just a little bit too real with the pandemic, was Hollowpox. But in general, the Nevermore series also makes me so happy. And I love all the characters and I want to hug them. Another book that made me really happy was The Chosen and the Beautiful. And that was like this kind of nostalgic happy because I've always been in love with the Gatsby movie since it came out. And so reading a book that, especially in the beginning, was so close to the movie was so nice. I loved it. And another book that also made me happy was Darius the Great Deserves Better. This is also a second book in a series, and I love following Darius. He is such a like cinnamon roll character, and he's just a really sweet boy. And even though this book definitely deals with some harder topics, I felt like having him tell you about it still made it like a very cozy read. And yeah, I really like this series as well. Okay, and then we have another like happy crying book, was definitely Rule of Wolves. As I said, I'm a huge Soya fangirl, so Rule of Wolves just did me in. It was so good. It was so good. I even vlogged it, so if you want to see me cry in a vlog, or at least get very like teary, then yeah, watch that vlog. I really loved it. Okay, number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. Or received. Let me go on a hunt for that. Okay, so I didn't buy too many books, so this is kind of redundant, but it's definitely Rule of Wolves. I love this cover so much. Then we have Wild Woman and the Blues, which this cover is so beautiful. I love it. And then also with the whole color scheme, I really like this cover. I didn't really like the other color of this book. The other color? The other cover is How Beautiful We Were. And yeah, I just love it. So that's the most beautiful ones. And then number 13 is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And again, let us go on a little excursion. My birthday stack, my current library stack, and then this is my TBR card, and some of these I would like to read as well. So if you've seen any books that I should read first, just let me know in the comments. But this was the mid-year book Freakout tag, and I hope that this was interesting to you. Leave a like if it was, I would really appreciate it, and subscribe if you want to see how the rest of my year goes reading-wise. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye!